Group 4. Group 4. Come on,
Jump. Good morning, class. I'm Kadis Kafalo. I'm here representing Group 4. Our topic is critical thinking and its challenges. Before we further go to our presentation, I wanted to ask you about what do you guys wonder what prevents us from thinking critically in a everyday situation? And while you are thinking this question, I would like to introduce about what's critical thinking. As Group 3 presented, critical thinking is thinking clearly, rationally, and fairly. Its aim is to arrive well-reasoned and justifiable conclusion. But sometimes there are barriers that will not allow us to arrive that destination. So in this presentation, we explore the importance of critical thinking, how it enhances decision making and its impact in our intellectual growth. We also address common barriers to clear thinking and provide strategies to overcome them. Join us on this journey to unlock the secrets of critical thinking and make smart decisions for a richer life. Our objectives are list the barriers of critical thinking, explain each barrier in detail, explain their impacts on decision making and problem solving, give example of each barriers, what are the roles of open-mindedness, intellectual humility, self-awareness in overcoming the barriers of critical thinking. Critical thinking, as I mentioned earlier, it helps us to make our decision help us to make a decision in day-to-day life and fostering our intellectual growth. Now we list some barriers of critical thinking. The first one is bias. Bias silently shape our views, it's influenced by experience and beliefs, and guiding us toward a certain direction or certain ideas. Example, a manager unconsciously favoring ideas from those with similar background, overlooking diverse team or valuable contribution. Understanding our bias is crucial for making open thinking, requiring recognition and effort to consider different point of views. The second barrier is unwarranted assumptions. Unwarranted assumption involves accepting beliefs without sufficient evidence, hindering our critical examination. For example, as accepting ideas because they are popular. For example, assuming a product is superior solely based on a popularity without evaluating its actual features and performances. Overcoming this barrier requires a willingness to question and evaluate assumptions, seeking evidence and reasoning to support this belief. The third one is emotional influence. Our feelings or emotions are natural, but sometimes they can cloud our thinking. They bring unclear thinking. For example, if we are in fear, we might decide quickly to get out of that situation. If we are overconfident, we might not see other problems we are facing. Another example is a manager feeling nervous, making quick decision without true consideration. Managing emotion involves step back and thinking before deciding. The fourth barrier is information overload. In a world full of information, overload can lead to confusion and exhaustion. A student trying to find a good information online but getting overwhelmed by conflicting ideas. For example, while we are doing this presentation, we encountered different sites that give us what we want, but we focus on what we want. So we select what we want, focusing on what we want and not getting lost in full of information is one thing. And the fifth one is egocentrism. Egocentrism, viewing the world from our perspective or our point of view, neglecting other views or ideas. Example, a team member dominated by egocentric thinking dismissed the alternative approach, hindering collaboration. The sixth one is sociocentrism. It's the same as with egocentrism, but in this case it's socially or it's group superiority, tendency to view one's own social or cultural group as a superior. This barrier leads to challenge group norms, considering perspective outside the collective mindset. This barrier will enable us to think outside of our perspective or outside viewpoint. Example, a business team resists to adopt an innovating practice due to prioritizing conformity over creative thinking. In this example, the business teams are not willing to adapt a new system, a new routine, because they are comfortable with the old one and they are not critically thinking. The seventh one is relativistic thinking. We are familiar with this term in other subjects. It's like cultural relativism. Relativistic thinking perceives all perspectives as equally and valid, regardless of evidence or reasoning. While open-mindedness is crucial, the barrier hinders the dissonance between well-supported argument and unfounded opinions. Example, treating baseless conspiracy theories as equivalent to scientifically backed information. The eighth one and the last barrier is wishful thinking. Wishful thinking involves accepting ideas based on our desire or what we want to happen, rather than objective reality. This barrier clouds judgment and impedes critical thinking, hindering problem-solving abilities. Recognizing and overcoming wishful thinking enables smart decision and more efficient problem solving. Now, as we have seen the barriers, now we have some strategies to overcome these barriers in order to think critically. The first one is awareness and reflection. As most of you know, acknowledging the existence of a problem is halfway of solving them. So acknowledging the existence of these barriers as the first step in overcoming them. Cultivating heightened awareness of bias, assumption, and emotional tendencies. How can we do it? Regularly reflecting on past decisions and thought process for insight and conscious correction. Example, journaling about recent decision-making process to identify, address, and potential bias and assumptions. The second one is diverse perspective seeking, actively seeking diverse point of views to combat sociocentrism and egocentrism, engaging with people from various background or worldview, encouraging open discussion within teammates to value and incorporate diverse perspective. Example, organizing cross-functional team meeting for collaboration decision making. The third strategy is Socratic questioning. As the name indicates, is questioning our assumption or belief and point of view, using probing question to uncover hidden assumption and scrutinize our conclusion. Continuously ask why I believe this, to expose underlying beliefs. Example, regularly questioning what evidence support this assumption to ensure sound reasoning. The fourth one is critically analysis of information. This strategy helps us to to overcome the wishful thinking. Addressing relativistic thinking and requires the developing eye for evaluating information, distinguishing between well-supported argument and unfounded opinions, emphasizing evidence's validity and reliability. Example, teach individuals to face fact check from multiple sources before accepting as a valid, fostering a dissenting approach of information. The fifth one is scenario analysis. I think I make a mistake. The critical analysis of information used to address relativistic approach, relativistic view and scenario analysis, wishful thinking. It's used to overcome wishful thinking. As I mentioned earlier, wishful thinking is thinking what we want to happen, but in scenario analysis, this scenario analysis involves objectively assessing different potential outcomes rather than what we want to happen, both negative and positive outcomes. Example, prior to a project launch, conduct a scenario analysis to evaluate potential challenges and identify proactive strategies to address them. The sixth one is decision-making framework. This involves using RAID, recognize assumption, evaluate information, and draw conclusion. It offers a structural approach. Example, applying RAID model to a complex problem, ensuring through consideration of assumption, evaluation of information, and draw well-founded conclusion. The seventh one is continuous learning. As other groups explain, critical thinking is not one-time action, it's a continuous action. So critical thinking is involving a skill that benefits from continuous learning, encouraging a mindset of curiosity and commitment to staying informed, ensuring adaptability and receptiveness to new information and perspectives. The eighth one is collaborative problem solving. Fostering a collaborative problem-solving environment leverages the collective intelligence of a group, encouraging open communication and active participation allows diverse perspectives to converge, overcome, and individual cognitive biases. Example, conducting a brainstorming session where team members freely share ideas, providing a platform for collective problem-solving. The ninth one is a dynamic approach. Overcoming barriers to critical thinking requires a dynamic and continuous commitment to self-awareness and skill development. As I said, this is not a one-time action, it's a progress or a journey. So it's important to use this strategy, dynamic approach. Implementing strategies and technique enables individuals to navigate decision-making with resilience, adaptability, and heightened critical thinking. As this approach are cultivating a future is paved where critical thinking becomes integral, personal and professional growth. Now we've seen the strategies to overcome the barriers, but as a general, open-mindedness, intellectual humility, and self-awareness help us to think critically. When we say open-mindedness means being ready or receiving others' ideas or opinions without neglecting or rejecting them without further questioning. Role of open-mindedness, people's critical thinking beyond preconceived notions, serving as a catalyst to explore diverse perspectives. Its impact is it breaks down mental barriers, fostering environment where ideas collide, merge, and evolve, leading the innovative solution. Example, an academic researcher embraced diverse research methodologies, enriching understanding and advancing the field beyond traditional scope. The second one is intellectual humility. It's a compass guiding us through the vast set of knowledge, reminding us the limits of our understanding. Its impact is it acts as a catalyst of continuous learning, fostering an environment where individuals admit gaps in their knowledge, sparking perpetual quests for deeper insight. Example, a software a software developer acknowledges the necessity of learning a new programming language, recognizing that mastery is an ongoing journey. Self-awareness. Self-awareness asks us eliminating the inner landscape of thoughts, bias, and emotions. Its impact is to unveil cognitive biases by shining light on hidden assumptions and emotional triggers, enabling a more objective evaluation and information. Example: a leader recognizes the inclination towards a risk of aversion and continuously seeks input from the team members with a higher risk of tolerance. Synergic dynamics. The interplay of open-mindedness, intellectual humility, and self-awareness creates a dynamic synergy where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Cycle of growth. Open-mindedness sparks curiosity, leading to continuous learning, facilitated by intellectual humility, while self-awareness ensures the purposeful and bias-free growth. Resilience decision-making. The harmonious convergence individuals with a resilience mindset to adapt and make decisions grounded in holistic understanding of situation. Cultivation of wisdom beyond knowledge and skills. That cultivation wisdom, the ability to navigate complexities with discernment, humility, and acute self-understanding. Open-mindedness, intellectual humility, and self-awareness, transit attributes become the essence of thoughts leadership, shaping not just how we think, but who we are as critical thinkers. As a conclusion, I mentioned what really critical thinking means is, it's thinking clearly and fairly, and its aim, and it's what prevents us from thinking critically. And I mentioned some of the strategies that we overcome these barriers. It's not merely a tool in our presentation. It says that critical thinking is not just a skill, it's a way of thinking, it's a way of our life. So this is it. If you have any questions.
Just ከፍ right? Timely. Nice. Sheet group members. Kebrom, come here. Kebrom, tell me what you understand from your paper from silence. What are some of the challenges that you meet in preparing your presentation?
Yeah, thank you for asking me these questions. Actually, I understand all about the critical thinkers, what is the critical thinking mean, and how it can help us through our life experiences, and what are the barriers that can just block us from those critical thinking to be best critical thinking. So when we overcome those critical thinking barriers of critical thinking, it helps us through our life. That's what I understand from this topic.
What are some common barriers or obstacles?
Yeah, the most common barriers of critical thinking are egocentrism, sociocentrism, relativity thinking, false assumptions, and wishful thinking. Those are most common barriers that influence our life.
What is wishful thinking?
Yeah, wishful thinking is like thinking that is not in this world. I mean, like there is nothing but just wishing for something which is not real or truth. But instead, we have to seek the truth. What is the truth and what is the best thing to our life?
How can external factors support their influence here?
Yeah, those can affect us, our critical thinking by just, for example, by being sociocentric, by the group, by socializer. This can influence us to be centered on the group only. Don't think outside of that one. So it helps us to think outside. Thank you.
Kalkidan Aristo. Kalkidan, tell me what do you understand from
I explored that some barriers or obstacles for practice of critical thinking and strategies or techniques that overcome these barriers and the role of open-mindedness, self-awareness in practice of critical thinking.
how can external factors such as bias or social influence hinder critical thinking? How can external factors such as bias or social influence hinder critical thinking?
Like groupthink that discourage individuals to express their thoughts in confirmation bias that is prevent individuals critically evaluate different perspectives. The other one is authority bias that focus on source rather than contents. And so,
How can developing metacognitive skill help individual identify what's wishful thinking? Wishful thinking, what? How can wishful thinking? Wishful thinking.
wishful thinking means believe something, not believing something, because some sufficient evidence, but we believe our wishes rather than truth.
كنان شمكت شي تمكتال اسكي عنده مكت tell me what do you understand from
Our paper mainly talks about the barriers of critical thinking and how to solve them and the strategies to solve the barrier thinkings. This slide.
what's the title of your paper? Your title?
Barriers to critical thinking.
Barriers. Okay. Can you mention some barriers of critical thinking?
Yeah, there are many barriers to critical thinking. For example, biases, egocentrism, and sociocentrism, information overload, lack of information, and same stuff, wishful thinking. And next, information overload means it's when we have so many informations and we can't identify which ones to use. For example, when we were doing this assignment, we had to go through many websites and research books, and to conclude to this paper, we have to choose the right ones for our topics, and in going through all that's the information overload. Sociocentrism is when someone is inclined to support some social beliefs or some social teams or groups because of his backgrounds. For example, if we can see ethnocentrism, we can group ethnocentrism into this, when someone feels the need to support that team or that environment.
And how can it be better to critical thinking?
It clouds our judgments. We can't deduct to a certain assumption.
Khalid Muhammad absent. Khalid Muhammad. Kalkidan Wandesa. Kalkidan Wandesa, tell me what you understand from your side.
It was all about the barriers of critical thinking. So, how many there are, and what are there in detail, and how to overcome them, and then the role of open-mindedness, intellectual humility, and self-awareness in the critical thinking.
What's wishful thinking, and how it can? What's wishful thinking, and how it can be better to critical thinking?
Sorry?
Wishful thinking. Define wishful thinking.
Wishful thinking is about assuming, accepting assumptions that are the same as our desire or the thing that we want it to be.
Egocentrism.
Egocentrism is all about thinking everything from our perspective, not others.
Sociocentrism.
Sociocentrism is favoring or one's social or cultural favoring one's social perspective other than the others. I mean, just favoring my culture than the others and favoring others that are the same culture as me.
Intellectual humility.
Intellectual humility is a compass and a vast knowledge, a vastity of knowledge, and it helps us to see our limits of the our limits and our knowledge. It's a compass, and at the same time it helps us to see our limits, our inhibitions. Yeah.
Khalifat Muhammad. Khalifat, tell me what you stand for.
Barriers of critical thinking and how to overcome.
The title of your sermon is what?
Barriers of critical thinking.
Okay, mention some barriers of critical thinking.
Lack of confidence, social and cultural influence, fear to failure, lack of information, emotional reasoning.
Emotional?
Reasoning.
What's the difference between sociocentrism and egocentrism?
Sociocentrism believes one's culture or group of people's thought is true, neglecting others. Egocentrism, individuals' thoughts is true.
How can it be barriers to critical thinking?
Cause
Can you provide example of situation individuals successfully overcame challenge in critical thinking?
Nelson Mandela,
Example of situation where individuals successfully overcame challenges in critical thinking.
Nelson Mandela, anti-apartheid, former president of South Africa. His critical thinking ability to navigate complex political problems and negotiate.
Kena Marga. Khalid Abdul Basit. Kena absent, right? Kena Marga. Khalid Abdul Basit, tell me what is that for
How to overcome obstacles in critical thinking process. The role of open-mindedness.
What are the common barriers to critical thinking? What are the common barriers, obstacles?
Egocentrism, sociocentrism, relativistic thinking, wishful thinking.
What's wishful thinking?
Believing something without evidence because you want that thing to happen.
Relativistic thinking.
Truth is based on the matter of opinion, not with evidence.
What strategies or approaches can individual adopt to overcome cognitive bias? What strategies or approaches can individual develop to overcome barriers of critical thinking?
Asking question.
Khalid Zain. Khalid, tell me what you understand from your paper, from the assignment.
Thank you. Our presentation is all about benefits of critical thinking and barriers of critical thinking and how we overcome such kinds of barriers.
What are some common barriers of critical thinking?
There are different barriers, but there are 5 major barriers. These are unwarranted assumptions, egocentrism, sociocentrism, cultural relativistics, and wishful thinking.
Nice. What's the difference between egocentrism and sociocentrism?
Egocentrism means it is it's egocentrism is believing what you want to be true, or it's self-centered thinking, and sociocentrism is believing what the societies or the cultures believes.
Thank you. Can you tell me some strategies to overcome the challenges of critical thinking?
Yeah, there are different methods or strategies to overcome such kind of barriers. These are by reading different books, continuous learning, continuous discussion, and having different perspectives. And it's
Kena Grima? Kena, tell me what is
Okay, thank you. Mainly I understand three topics: barriers of the individuals face while critical thinking, and the strategies that help them to improve. The barriers include the unwarranted assumption, egocentrism, sociocentrism, relativistic approach, and they all affect our critical thinking. And the second one is the strategies that helps us to overcome those challenges. They include scenario analysis for wishful thinking, seeking diverse perspectives, which help us to avoid egocentrism and sociocentrism, and they include the list of them. The list goes on. And the third one, the main topic or the third thing that I understand from this presentation is the roles of open-mindedness, the intellectual humility and self-awareness in critical thinking. They are basically the guide principles to critical thinking.
what are the strategies to eliminate barriers of critical thinking?
The strategies include scenario analysis, which help us to overcome the wishful thinking. The second one is seeking diverse perspectives, which help us to egocentrism and sociocentrism, which are basically self-centered ideas. So when we seek diverse perspectives, that help us to improve those. The third one is awareness and reflection, and critical analysis of information, which help us to overcome the relativistic approach.
Define wishful thinking and how it can be barrier to critical thinking.
Okay, wishful thinking is thinking or deciding on things that align with our desires rather than the objective analysis. So that become the barrier to critical thinking because it's only centered on our own perspective rather than the objective or the other side.
Nice.
Our assignment was first defining critical thinking, and then we have to analyze what hinders our critical thinking, and then develop a process of thinking which helps us defend and go against those problems, which enable us to be able to think critically.
What are the common barriers?
Common barriers, the most common one is bias, and then there is unwarranted assumption, emotional influence, wishful thinking, relativism thinking, sociocentrism, and egocentrism.
Unwarranted assumption.
Unwarranted assumption is getting to an assumption without critically verifying the information, accepting an assumption without checking the fact if it's true or not.
What else? Your name is? Father name? Solomon. Okay. Since you are important, who is he? The author of the book. Harley. Patrick Harley. Okay, tell me what is
the objective of my paper, the assignment is to identify the barriers of critical thinking and to the strategies and the techniques to overcome these barriers, and the role of open-mindedness and self-awareness. These things.
What are the strategies to overcome these barriers?
Awareness and reflections, diverse perspective seeking, and Socratic questioning. Socratic questioning the assumptions or beliefs or viewpoints.
What's wishful thinking?
Wishful thinking is accepting beliefs that are desirable to us.